In episode 5, all is not lost. Um, she is given a special ceremony to cure her up by Missandei, Grey Worm, and those who still are loyal to her. This is known as the resuming reign in Marine. She does accept this, and it does give her a little bit, though not much. She has still much to mourn and loss of the great defeat and humiliation and degradation that was befallen her. So much becomes the discussion with her, Missandei, and Grey Worm. They even talk about the past, how Tyrion tried to crack jokes. And of course, they are delighted when, for the first time, the Daenerys even laughs about this, though she still is angered because he should have been foreseen to of what would have befallen them, and informs them that he will not be restricted from coming to the palace. She will consider him a friend, but he will never hold the title Hand of the Queen, and they understand this. In the meantime, she then seems to be in a slight mood and tells Masandi of all that she has learned, although she has already stood there, and that also for a Grey Worm's benefit anyway, that apparently one is to come from another world. She is not sure what to think of this, and then she cracks her own joke, unknowingly, by wondering what kind of a pull and two stones he will have. They all seem to laugh about this, as well as Daenerys, because most men of her world, of course, are like 7 or 8 feet tall. So it becomes somewhat of a like a hint of erotic discussion, but not much. Because again, she still has much of the sadness in her heart, but it is something of a bit of a humor to discuss. Of course, Grey Worm kind of straight face shakes his head because of him being in the room with both Daenerys and Missandei, who he likes very much. Um, Finds this kind of a uncomfortable discussion, so they quickly change it to something else, so you don't feel kind of like it is a discussion that probably he shouldn't be present in. In the meantime, the messenger was sent by Sandy to inform Daenerys that a palace celebration had been planned for. So she decides to see what this is all about. She makes her way into the banquet hall. Everyone applauds her presence, and she kind of is taken aback by this, not knowing what the special occasion is. What is this all about? Well, we decided that you need some cheering up. Really? Oh, what I have to cheer about? Well, we do have our queen back in Marine. And as I said, we all have come to love you. And regardless of things that have recently happened, we have much respect for you. And you are still our queen. We have much faith in you. Well, I don't know what to say. Thank you, Miss Sandy, and everyone. I do appreciate this. So, as everyone, helps themselves, and Miss Sandy helps uh, Daenerys get a plate of food as well, they then sit down to discuss things. Um, my queen, yes, Miss Sandy. Well, Daenerys, it's not that I'm trying to bring up maybe grievances or anything, but I understand that, as we had already previously talked about, Tyrion being stripped of being in the position of Hand of the Queen. Is there any chance that, well, I know you said that he's not permanently barred from visiting us, but um, has your feelings changed regarding him any? Just kind of wondering. Well, I have no ill will of him. I think that, in spite of everything, and though I let it slid the fight first time, um, I know you and Grey Worm have tried to convince him that inviting the enemy and the palace to smooth things over, though the intentions were good, is probably not been the best decision. Yes, we did try to inform him on this. He kind of seemed to speak some wisdom, but when we were under attack, it just didn't seem to go too well. That is why I let it slide. And then, of course, we already know why he was stripped, as we have covered this. I guess from what I've heard through people talking, coming to and fro from Westeros, that apparently Tyrion has caught his eye on someone. Really? I mean, not that I'm trying to laugh at him, but um, he's found someone. Yes.
I guess she goes by the name of Marcella. Um, he's been, I guess, getting some consolation through a good friend of his, Lord Varys. And I guess he's going to try to settle down again. Perhaps live out the rest of his days, hopefully in happiness. And has accepted what has befallen him by your decision. And with no regrets or animosity towards you. So I guess then he will have a life of happiness. Well, that is good. Everybody deserves somebody. Yes. And what about you? Well, um, I am told by the visionary that I will be meeting somebody, as I had said before, the stranger from another world. Not sure when, but he is due to arrive by a prophecy foreseen by the visionary. I see. Well, um, what do you think, Grey Worm, about this? He kind of thinks for a minute. How can you trust one from another world, not from our kingdom? He knows nothing of our culture, traditions, or customs. Neri then looks at Grey Worm. Well, I can instruct him on these things. Perhaps assign him to certain Lord instructors to teach him our ways, groom him to meeting my expectations, because he will not be accustomed to our traditions and customs and traditions, as you said. And if everything that the visionary has said is true, he won't be able to go back home anyway because of some catastrophic event, which I'm sure he will tell us later when he feels it's time. I don't want to rush him into trying to tell us everything as to how you get here and the catastrophic event because I would imagine he's going to be in much sorrow, as the visionary said. Hmm. Well, he, for being someone short of stature and frail, how can he lead anyone to victory? Now, I have thought about that myself, but apparently, one with the gift of foresight has not been known to lie about such things, and that is why they hold such a position in the palace. As palace visionary, I would imagine that there's a reason for his being here. I keep thinking that maybe it's a blessing from the gods. Hmm, could be. I guess time will tell. Yes. So they continue eating their celebration banquet dinner that was prepared by Masandi to cheer her up. Then Masandi, trying to lighten the mood. So have you given any much more thought about the stranger and how he will be built physically? And Daenerys almost chokes on her wine. She's like, I have not thought about that. I didn't want to embarrass Grey Worm because the last time we were talking about this, he seemed kind of embarrassed that we changed the subject. Grey Worm just a straight face shakes his head again, looking around like as if he should be leaving right now. It's okay, Grey Worm, if you want to leave. He nods in agreement and gets up and leaves. He doesn't want to have to go through that again. Well, I would imagine he would be somewhat slender. I can only guess that if he's shorter than me, I can only hope that everything's in the right place. He will be somewhat, what's the word? Alien to our world. He's somewhat pink skinned, though that kind of makes me wonder. I mean, not pink like as in the colors we have in the palace, but according to Visionary, but his skin is supposed to be somewhat thinner, and not that anyone should cause him harm so we could see what color his blood is, but I guess it's supposed to burn um, red hot and be bright red. I cannot imagine such a thing. we're so accustomed, even when we fight the enemy, that the blood color is darker. And our skin, of course, is, well, our skin to us is normal. So it may be thicker than his. I also wonder how intelligent he is. Does he have a high IQ like us? How many senses does he have? Or has he only got half senses? That is something to ponder, Daenerys. It would be quite unusual to meet this one, um, because of things that he may know or see, being so much more advanced than us. Yes, that is true. You know, it is something to give some thought on. So, with that, they continue eating and discussing many other things. So, what would be, um, in your opinion, Daenerys, Tyrion's failure that you decided that he should not hold Hand of the Queen? Well, as I told Tyrion, it's one thing to be one's advisor, to give good advice, but advisors have more duties than just that. They always have to keep their eyes and ears open for anything they see and hear, and report to the one they serve. He has not done this, and had he done it, I believe, in my opinion, we would have been fully prepared for what had befallen us at King's Landing. And because he did not do this, and we were taken by surprise during me and Jon Snow's wedding, it would have been his failure for not having let us know, so we would have been better prepared. I understand. So, would there be any way he can redeem himself? Well, he will never hold Hand of the Queen again. I have made many mistakes, and I do not intend to repeat them. And the visionary says that by admitting my mistakes and not to repeat them makes me a true queen. That is very good that the visionary would see this. I would have to agree with him as well. Well, thank you, Miss Zombie. Um, well, now that Grey Worm's gone, so we don't embarrass him further, I've been wondering if the stranger has a very long pole and 2 stones or a short one. But they both start laughing. Wow. Well, and do we even know what the stranger looks like? He may look like Grey Worm or myself, or maybe he's like you. Yes, well, either way, the question is, does he have a strong pull on 2 stones, or somewhat fragile? Wow. Yes, it is quite the discussion we're having right now. Well, I'm glad this dinner banquet has cheered you up some. Yes, I didn't mean to crack an inappropriate joke. No, it is okay. This is quite amusing. And, of course, you do know, Miss Sunday, this is in confidence. Um, though it is a talk that only, well, we women would have. Which is probably why Grey Worm felt a little embarrassed. Yes, I'm sure it has. Well, I suppose there's a reason you would be thinking on this. Well, when I was a very young girl, as me and my brother Viserys were growing up, she kind of tries to regain somewhat composure, while my cousin Elsa was into the explorations of what lied beyond the borders of the known world. Mine was a little more um, intimate because I still have much to learn, of course. You know, like how big is a man's pulling 2 stones? Is it strong? Is it long? Does it get really, really hard? People start laughing at this. What does it feel like inside a woman? Does he go fast or slow? Or a little of both? Does he enjoy putting it other places, although it may be inappropriate, I had been very much into exploration of these things. Because unlike most other children growing up in our world, I didn't get the privileges like those children because of being the nobility and royalty. So I didn't get to have the enjoyment of playing with other children. So as I grew up, many curiosities I've had. Yes, I see. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. So you approve of my even still curiosities? Well, yes. I mean, obviously those curiosities must have been incurred when you know, had the night give you certain gratifications. Yes, well, his pull wasn't too bad either. Really? Yes, he seemed to know how to work it, but it's because of his status that I can't marry him. I would not tell him these things because I wouldn't want to lead him on with such erotic discussion, giving him false hope. It would stimulate him, but I do not want to do this because then I would be breaking his heart, and I'm sure I've already broken it enough. Yes, well, but now that my life seems to be taking a new direction based on the visionary's vision, makes me wonder about this one. I know I shouldn't be thinking like this. This is probably not appropriate for me being a queen to think these things. But if I'm to spend the rest of my life with him, how much can he pleasure me? Can he meet my every desire and my needs? I oftentimes wonder, and I sometimes feel like I'm back to being that very young girl, growing up, wondering about many things about the strangers to come into our world. Well, I'm sure you'll find out soon enough, when the time's right. You wouldn't like intentionally try to come on too strong, I would imagine, to scare him. No, I wouldn't want to do that. Besides, if I was to do that, and of course he'll know that I'm a queen, I wouldn't want him to think that I was raping the poor guy. They must be fun. Although that would probably be fun. And as the knight had once told me, a queen can do anything. It is not my intentions to give that um, certain sensation to this poor stranger that I would do anything. And, well, I want to earn his trust as much as I know he wants to earn mine. But he's going to be unusual, and I'm not to harm him. I will be punishing him, much to my pleasure, not to cause harm, but because he will speak boldly because he thinks he has to. That's what the visionary told me. I see. But then again, he will probably learn after such pleasurable punishments I give him, and eventually, gradually, adapt to our ways, traditions, and customs, except for the modesty part. I would imagine not everyone in his world believes in the freedom of um, not being immodest or feeling shameful if one is found in the nude bathing in public or by a stream or a river or going to certain places or perhaps maybe a man having more than one wife. That would be interesting, yes. But it's going to be quite the fascination to learn how much different is this world than ours, and how possibly, if it is, the same as ours. Well, I see it's going to be quite the revelation for you then, as you had said. Yes, it will be. Well, I hope you enjoyed what we have done for you today. Yes, I have. And you have cheered me up. It's gotten my mind to wander and think many things. And I do appreciate this, that you and all the palace staff have done, you and Greenworm. Well, if there's nothing else, Miss Andy, I shall go take into some more solitude, as I have some other things to think about now that we have had our humorous yet erotic discussion. Well, it is my pleasure to give you some pleasures if it makes you feel better thinking on these things. It is something I will have to keep to myself because, well, being a queen, it's not something I probably would want to get around, let my mind wander in areas that would be considered improper. I understand. But thank you again, Miss Sandy, for everything you've done. You are a true friend indeed. Well, you're welcome, my queen. And I will see you perhaps later, Daenerys. Very well, then. So, with that, Daenerys then leaves the banquet hall.
And it goes to a scene where the Iron Throne is restored to a cousin of the former King Tommen's. Goes by the name of Johnston. And it's only fitting because since the Queen Mother is not to have the Iron Throne, somebody has to be on it. He is married to a very beautiful lady, much like Queen Margie, who is a bit older than him. A sweet disposition. Her name is Miri. Miri and Johnston now take the Iron Throne so that there is somebody on the realm of the kingdoms. Everybody accepts this because Johnston seems to be, like former King Tommen's, one that is easy to get along with. You might pull over something on him once, and if it's a form of treachery, he will catch it the second time. But he seems to be very well mannered, with much mannerisms and dignity. And so he is quite hailed the king of the Iron Throne for the realm of the kingdoms.
King Johnston, then, after having been crowned and installed officially to the Iron Throne of Swords for the realm of the kingdoms, then decides to make his decree. I know much has happened here, and I'm not familiar with all your politics because I come from a different land. But because I was the next of kin to former King Tommen's, the only thing I can tell you is that though I too may be somewhat naive, though maybe not as much as King Tommen's, I do intend to do what is right and rule well, and to try to meet everyone's needs. But I will not also be a pushover either. One may get away with it the first time, but never the second. On the other hand, unlike my other cousin, former King Tommen's brother, Joffrey, I will not be treacherous either. There is certain proper etiquettes and morale that must be exercised. Unless someone truly acts treacherously, I shall not act in the ways that the former king, prior to Tommen's, has acted. So, if there is ever a time where someone has a grievance or thinks that I am doing wrong, I encourage somebody, as long as they keep a civil tongue in their head, to speak freely. This is how we learn from each other. My wife, Queen Miri, and I will do what we can to help you all out. I know that at this time, many of you have certain customs and traditions you have to attend to. Some will have to bury their dead and have a long time of mourning for all that has happened since this race, who I'm not familiar with, called the Dothraki, had done what they've done, led by this, what was her name again? Oh, right. Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen. though I cannot pass judgment because I don't know her anyway, and it's not my custom to do so from where I come from. I will say that such treacheries won't be allowed while I sit on this throne, and nobody's going to be overthrowing me. And as long as everyone does their job, I will do best to do mine. Are we all in agreement to this? Everybody seems to shake their head in agreement. Very well then. I believe that the temple is currently under construction. Yes, my king. The faith of the Seven Halves started reconstruction of this. Very well then. I'd like to be kept informed of the progress that is being made. And as far as I know, no treachery or attempts is to be made on the former Queen Regent who once sat on this throne before this Daenerys Stormborn had her removed and had the throne until the time of her wedding day, which has been dissolved or annulled for only but 3 days, because it was her last granted command that she was allowed to have. Therefore, being on restrictions shall remain in force, as I will respect this, because it was like that of a last request or wish when one is being sentenced, and therefore, in her case, being a queen, was her last granted right of decree or command before her removal. This shall stay in place. Anything that happens to her will have to answer to me, and I will not be so nice if I find out anything happens to her. She is on restrictions. There's not much more she can do. So, is there any other business that needs to be discussed at this time? Very well then. I appreciate you welcoming me here, and my wife, Queen Marie. We will do our best. And so, I guess if with no further ado, I will leave you to your funeral processions, taking care of the dead, and those that have been treated badly by these savage race of people called Dothraki. I don't see them coming back again, so I don't think we have anything to fear now. So with that, his decree and announcement is officially over. Back then again at Marine, as Daenerys continues watching, finally the two comets that after the blue went inside comes back out after a while and disappears through the horizon. The visionary then appears unto her. I see that you have seen what there is to be seen. She turns, and with a big smile on her face, and so you believe now the prophecy is true, she agrees to this, and he then instructs her, there's going to be things about this one that you're going to find different about him. She seems interested and listens intently. You must not be harsh with this one. Remember, he's not of this world, though he may appear somewhat like the men of this world. You will come to find much interest in him because, again, he's not after you for your wealth or your nobility, your power, or your throne, for that matter. He only wants the heart, because he can never go back to his world, and here will be the day he lives out the last of his days, till the day he should perish, as we all come to an end in our life, one way or another. She then sits at a table, and he sits down with her. You must understand that he will bring things to you that you have never ever seen, never the likes that you would ever imagine. Beyond the imagination, he will give you a gift, not of material things, but of great victory. Things that his world would probably punish him if he could get back to his world, because he would be violating certain protocols that he is sworn not to share with one that is probably not as advanced as he is, but yet you will treasure the knowledge he gives you. It will give you many victories. She seems quite delighted and listens even more intently. You may even come to find out that when I had told you, you'll discover the mere touch of your hand to his chest when he has a disturbing time of sleep, though it is not for me to say where you'll have him sleep, because that would probably be personal, and it would probably be inappropriate for me to tell you of these things. But you may come to find out that what you discover when you waken the sleeping dragon, it actually is symbolism that the sleeping dragon is of heraldry. She seems quite delighted and inquires, is this guy actually one of nobility and title? Well, his title is not one that, like yours, that gets him anything, nor special favors. It's because his world being much older, their ways probably may have changed, though I can't really proceed into another one's world, only what I can see of ours. Therefore, I can also not give you too much wisdom, because I'm not an advisor. I'm only a person with vision of foresight. But this much I do know. He will have a title, a little bit less than that of a prince. But on the other hand, he thinks for a moment, he will have a certain type of custom that you won't have to worry about losing the throne if you should decide to take him as your mate and marry him. He will exercise this much to your delight. Therefore, your place on the throne would be secure, and he'd be following in your stead. She kind of laughs about this, is like very eager to find out more about this, but she knows he can't tell her a whole lot because he's not an advisor and he's just merely a visionary. Much is the anticipation that she learns about this mysterious person. You also may come to learn that he comes from, his world will be like a legend. And through his heraldry, because you seem to have three dragons, you may come to find much attraction to him even still, because his world also dealt with dragons. Yes, becomes quite the anticipation. And with much grin again, she seems very delighted to be hearing these things for a man coming from another world that has legends of dragons. This could be quite the thing that of interest to her, because she's never met one from another world that also had dragons. You will come to learn of his history, he assures her, and much again will the growth of your love for this person become. This is why you'll end up probably having 3 or more children with him, because his love will never end. In fact, it'll keep growing and growing. And it will be that he will live out the rest of his days continuing to love you, never betraying your trust. He may at first be fearful, but you have to understand he's not of this world, and you have to be patient with him. Try not to be too hard on him. She assures him that she won't. There's going to be sometimes he'll be forward. You can be firm with him, because I know you have to maintain a certain status quo so that he doesn't act inappropriate or speak too boldly. But do not injure this one. You may not get this opportunity again. She kind of thinks about it for a moment. I must ask, though, now, because this is very important, because you will never get this chance again. What have you learned so far from the choices that you made when you first caught King's Landing? She looks away and thinks about it. Did you not once, when you were very young, hear your first husband say that he would rape the women in Valerian? She does recall this. So what can you learn? I guess I did make a mistake. Now you sound like a queen. And she looks at him with a big smile. It is when a king or queen can admit a mistake, they became a good ruler, because they learned from the mistake, draw strength from it, and never repeat it again. This delights her, for it is like many words of wisdom that she has now foreseen. that this mistake she made by taking Dothraki into the King's Landing area, now she will never make that mistake again. So, as you said when you first took this palace, it was your destiny to rule people, that they may come to love you, for raping women and young girls at certain ages of either 13 or 16. Even if you're not doing it yourself and it's the Dothraki are doing it, how can you expect people to love you unless you can prove that the women are coming at you with weapons? Did they ever do anything to you? She shakes her head no. So it is obviously not the women that should be punished. It is only the men that come at you with weapons. Why, what you did is cause people to hate you. So when this one shows up in the world, you will redeem yourself because he will bring you many victories, because he will be Dragonspear, and he will announce boldly and with pride, after you've taught him a few lessons in, well, modesty and other things, he kind of says, he kind of smiles about this, and you'll kind of find delight in the punishment, as long as you're not going to hurt him. But he will announce boldly, he will defend the queen, the mother of dragons, and you will come to know he is the one to be marked. She accepts this final words of wisdom, and so he takes his leave of her and looks at her one last time. Remember the words I have spoken. I may not speak to you again till I have another vision, until it's time, or if I have something else to remember to give you. This one here you will cherish more than anything else, more than your life, more than the gold, silver, and copper you have. This one here is one that others may do treacherous things to him. You must convince him that you look out for his best interests in the ways you would know best, and to protect him, be close to him, guide him, teach him, and eventually convert him. And he will follow you anywhere and obey any command you give, and great shall be your ruling. So she looks then back over the kingdom of Marine with a big smile on her face. It is as if she's a young girl again, and having been told a great story. How can she handle this? When will he show? Only time will tell.
Meantime, Kingdom of Lannis resumes Iron Throne claim, and of course, this now resumes also old grievances because the Boltons and the Three Towers King, as well as the Island King, all seem to have agreements, and thus they are no longer allies, but they are not one to war against each other unless given reason to, because they all feel they have a right to the throne. And so thus ends the episode 5, All is Not Lost.
Meantime, a meeting is held at the Baratheon castle, headed by the new King Lannis relative. So, what you're trying to say is that you think you should have the throne. Well, it would seem fitting because I want to earn the people's trust. And why can't I earn the people's trust? Well, we also have to look at the history of one whom I'm a relative of. He led a good life. And he had trusted in this woman and Red's abilities to see truth through the flames. Though I do not submit to such sorcery myself, it was not his fault that certain people of this kingdom decided to act like cowards and run and leave him wide open for being slaughtered by your nephew. Well, I can't be held responsible for what my nephew does. No, but you are his uncle, are you not? Yes, that is true. Well then, there you have it. And your nephew did do many times over on the one you have as prisoner now, flailing him when it is strictly against the law. You think anyone wants to have someone with that kind of background sitting on the Iron Throne of Swords for the realm of the kingdom? That's not a fair judgment. I think I could rule quite well. And can you say you have not tried this yourself? He doesn't say anything, knowing that he did try. You see my point. I'm calling this meeting together because if we can work together, it'll be I who sits on the Iron Throne. This doesn't seem to please the Iron Islands king too well. And what makes you so sure that you're the one to sit on the Iron Throne? Well, while you have Greyjoy's sister in custody, rumor has it that the king before you somehow mysteriously fell to his death. Yet nobody was ever found until later, and they gave him a proper, by your kingdom's traditions, a burial at sea. Can you honestly say you didn't have a hand in it? He doesn't say anything. You see, again, it proves that something is amiss here. Now, if you all support me on this, I'm sure we can all work together and we will all reap our rewards. I do not like the way this is headed, and I refuse, respectfully, to foresee you sitting on the throne. I believe I have the rightful claim. Besides, what about your Baratheon house history? Was it not your former relative, King Lannis, who made love to the woman in red so that something dark and sinister could come out as if she were giving birth to go kill a former King Tyrell? You need to watch what you say. I might take a grievance to that. And so you shall. Just remember, we are just as strong with our vessels as you are with your armies on land. So, again, you're not exactly spot free. I protest your words, says a woman in red. And what we do in private is not anyone's business or concern. It should be mine, says the Iron King, because he had his wife still in a tower with his daughter. when you two were, having much pleasure? Rumor does get around, and I'm sure you'll agree, many eyes see everything. Yes, and so does the fire god. What god do you worship? And how has he blessed you? You need not worry about my god. My god never dies, for he is one of the sea. And remember, water always extinguishes fire. She doesn't say anything and looks at him scornfully. Well, what about my claim? Yes, what about your claim? Says the Lannis relative king, looking over at him. The last I recall, your relative killed not only the king of the north, but had men act in such treacherous ways that after they barred the door so he couldn't escape, stabbing his wife, a queen, in the belly multiple times, thus killing her and the unborn child. Yes, I'm sure the kingdoms would love to have someone like you on the Iron Throne. I protest. You protest nothing, because you have nothing to stand on. Well, I can see we're not going to get anywhere with this. Yes, you probably are right. There's going to be nothing here but nothing but grievances, and so all the old grievances will resume. I was hoping this meeting would go well, but I can see it's going to end up in the battlefield eventually, one way or another. Well, then I guess we have nothing more to talk about. Well, I guess you're right. And so with that, the meeting ends not very well, and they all go their separate ways.